Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. Well, I don't know about you, but I have a hankering for some double mint gum. The second episode this week of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. It's a double pay-per-view weekend, so you'll get 2 episodes of the Juice Box for your listening enjoyment this week. We just had the King and Queen of the Ring discussion, the prediction show with just yours truly this past Friday, yesterday, and you're going to get this double or nothing predictions / preview show in the feed today for the show tomorrow night, Sunday night, emanating from the MGM Grand Garden Arena, the first time that Double or Nothing is going to be there since the inaugural 2019 Double or Nothing, which was an amazing historical show. Let's go back real quick. We had the Cody Dustin Rhodes match, which is amazing. We of course also had the Young Bucks Lucha Brothers match for the AAA tag titles. What a show! And of course you had the Kenny. You did. Kenny Omega lost to Chris Jericho, but you had the addition of Jon Moxley debuting in just one of the craziest just moments, I honestly, in wrestling history, because you never knew, right, who was going to be that first guy to be a WWE guy and go to AEW, or what that would look like. Just, it was really unknown, and this was so early. This was honestly their Lex Luger on Nitro moment. And I mean that with the utmost respect. Of course, I have to, because I'm a WCW fan. I do think that the Luger debut on Nitro was a huge deal. Nobody in WWE knew at the time. And he did like a house show the Sunday night, the night before, and just shows up at the Mall of America in that, puffy shirt looking thing. And they just made, actually, Mattel... in the most recent set, the Monday Night Wars, there is a set of 4 figures where if you buy all 4, they come with each separate figure comes with a piece. Like one's the legs, one's the puffy shirt, and the head and the body, and you put them together, and it's Lex Luger from the debut Nitro. So I'm looking forward. Eventually, I will probably obtain that figure as a former figure enthusiast. I would still say, I guess, a collector now, because there are a few that I have. I still haven't gotten rid of most of my figures from the times that I owned them, and really, I had the Wrestling Figure Federation. It was a huge thing, and now, of course, I just am out of the game. I've been out of the game for a while, but podcasts such as the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, they not only are an inspiration in regards to collecting, figure collecting, just like anything in general collecting, which I am one. I'm a collector of, some Seinfeld memorabilia and, of course, wrestling items, memorabilia, stuff of that nature, WCW pay-per-view t-shirts. But they also inspired me, for a podcast. They haven't missed a week. They've at least had 1 episode every single week. There's never like a best of show. There's never anything repeated. Like, it's just... every single week, you're going to at least get 1 brand new piece of content, which I pride myself in this show on. We are at, with this episode 81. We've done at least one episode a week since January of 2023, which I'm pretty proud that this show has at least gotten that far, that I've wanted to stay consistent this entire time. That was kind of why I wanted to do it, was to get just out there and just keep going, keep the consistency, and just go from there, progress. So that's where we're at now. But yeah, back to Moxley being the Luger, of AEW here. He has been, quite honestly, the guy, the workhorse, the guy who's been there every time there's been an injury, what have you. A ball dropped, and he picked it up, always ran it for multiple touchdowns, and that happened at that Double or Nothing. So 5 years since then, I'm glad that they kind of get to relive some great moments and memories from that particular show. And I'm hopeful, I mean, how many times have we had the end of an AEW show go off the air with some crazy, you know, something, some sort of angle, a match that we're not thinking was going to be great, turns out to be amazing, a return, a debut. You just don't know with AEW, and they don't do it every show. Like, I don't think there was anything crazy at the last pay-per-view, but Sting's retirement, and that was how crazy that was. But that was a huge end to a pay-per-view, and Double or Nothing, and it's like their big. I think their biggest show. I know All In is at Wembley, and All Out is a huge deal, but Double or Nothing is their first pay-per-view, so it is to me arguably their WrestleMania, or the show that feels most like WrestleMania. It always feels huge, like a huge deal. And I'm looking forward to this. We got it, of course, Memorial Day weekend. They've done this now for 5 years, and I love that it's on the Sunday with the Monday, Memorial Day week. Starts off with pretty much that day off for most in the United States. So, and that's who they cater to here. I mean, we're getting plenty of international shows and random shows on Saturdays, and we're gonna get All In, and I know they switched All Out now to not be immediately following that show, so thank goodness that we don't have to go back-to-back pay-per-views. But all that out of the way, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet, the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to it on Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, and of course on Spotify. And if you do listen to it on Spotify or iTunes, if you could just give a rating and review, that would really help the show. Additionally, we have the show on YouTube finally. So all the audio will be up there, uploaded every single week. It takes a little longer for each episode to upload for one reason or another. I'm sure there's thousands of uploads per hour on YouTube, so I understand. But as long as they keep posting, I really don't have an issue with it. But every single audio episode of the show will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you listen to podcasts there, check it out on YouTube. And at some point, we will get things worked out and potentially get some video up on the page. So at Juicy Steen on YouTube. But let's get into it. We just had the like I said, the King and Queen of the Ring show. 5 matches, not too crazy. Sort of predictable, but I think it's going to be exciting nevertheless. And of course, AEW, I mean, you're going to get a massive card. You're going to get probably 4 hours minimum. And you're going to get probably the best wrestling in the world. Their storylines, of course, recently people have been critical, but also very confused. Like, no one's really even sure. Like, are there enough storyline driven things in AEW? Week to week or with certain characters? Is it just great matches every week? Do we even know? Like, is there too little of that? Is there not enough story being told week to week in AEW? I think it's a little bit of everything that's going on with AEW, good and bad. Like, I think it's a hodgepodge right now. I think there's a lot of great stuff, but I also there are some things that I would rather not see every week, such as Chris Jericho and this, FCW title thing. Like, there's just so many, I don't know. There's a couple things where I'm like, I could deal without it for a month or two. Rhea Ripley being hurt, I think, is one of the better things that happened. Not that she's hurt. That's obviously terrible. You want her to recover and be better than she was before. But it's a reason that she's not going to be on TV week to week. And when she comes back, she's probably going to be received a lot differently than before, in only the sense of even more cheers than ever. So in this regard, if Jericho's away for a bit, when he comes back, and it doesn't have to get injured for that. I'm just using that as a you know just a like an analogy on it. But if Jericho goes away, I think I would be more receptive to him coming back. I think he wants to retire at some point soon. Maybe I'm nuts, but he doesn't. In ring, I still think he's got it. I think he still has it on the mic too. It's just I would wager he's oversaturated, and I know I'm not the only person that thinks that, but I don't know. He is a legend. It's kind of tough to always walk that line with Jericho. You either love him, hate him, or you kind of acknowledge that you can love him and hate him, but you can't deny who he is and his status in the, pro wrestling realm. But the good stuff, though, I would say Swerve Strickland. We're going to get into it a little bit. That I think Swerve. It's almost better that he's chasing the title than as a champion. Although I'll say it now, we can kind of get into it with just the card in general. We're just talking good and bad about AEW. It's almost as if Swerve, like the chase is. I always think they always would be brought up for the baby faces. Like, oh man, they're gonna get the chase, they're gonna get a lot of sympathy, and then they'll be ready when they eventually win the title. But there's plenty of people. I talked about it yesterday on the King and Queen of the Ring show about Jey Uso, where he doesn't need to win a world title for him to be just as popular and have the yeet thing and literally most over guy in the company without winning world. He's main event Jey Uso. His nickname literally tells you where he wants to be. It's not world champion Jey Uso. It doesn't matter. So it really doesn't matter to me, either way. If Swerve, I think he's good as a chase, and now he's champion. I think now I would say with Hangman not being there, and I actually think his match with Christian Cage is going to be something special. I do. But I just don't know if it's the right call. I'm wanting Hangman, who was suspended by the Elite, Hangman Page, to get back into it. Him and Strickland had arguably the best matches of the last year collectively at Wrestle Dream, and I can't recall when they had the other one, but they were in the triple threat, of course, but for the world title with Joe. But overall, it's just, do you need the title or you don't? Like Jey Uso, I don't think needs a title to be main event Jey Uso. He's just as popular without it, and that's fine. Swerve, I would say the same thing, but I also think he deserves a world title opportunity to carry the title, the company. And I would say the same with Jey Uso. I just feel like in general, looking at it as an outsider, I feel that if they just remain popular, remain in that realm of being over. And I've been saying it for weeks, everybody pretty much in WWE right now seems over. There's reactions to everybody. Awesome Truth is getting legitimate reactions week to week. And that's not a dig at them. It's just they were a huge deal 2011, 2010. That's a long time ago. And a lot has changed in WWE. But, if you're over, you're over. So Jey Uso, same with Swerve Strickland. They don't need a title. Swerve is champion. And I feel as if he would be better off as chasing the title and not having it. Maybe that's just how they're using him or utilizing his talents. Maybe they'll get through this Christian Cage thing, and maybe you do have Hangman come back in at some point. Maybe Will Ospreay gets a shot. I was under the assumption maybe Will Ospreay would have a shot at the world title as we get to All In Wembley. But, that clearly can still happen. Wouldn't it be great if he was international champion? And I have been kind of critical that there's too many titles, but combining the international and world title, unify them, just like WCW, because there was the AEW, or the WCW International World Champion, and that was the big gold belt. And then my favorite WCW title design, that was 92 to early 94. That was the WCW champion. Vader held it, Ron Simmons, Sting, and they unified them all. Flair and Sting at a Clash of the Champions in 94 before Hogan came in and won at Bash of the Beach. So maybe Will Ospreay, as we get into the card, of course, maybe Ospreay ends up winning the title And then if they do some sort of unification, that could be something I could easily see maybe transpiring there. And because they've unified other titles before, I just know that there's been outside criticism of too many titles, including the Ring of Honor titles, which I don't think is fair, really, to Ring of Honor, the name. But I mean, what are you gonna do? I've said that Ring of Honor should have been purchased, the library, everything, but run by the same people that ran it before. Just with the funding of AEW, like the ECW was to WWE. Why can't they just be funded but run as if they were Ring of Honor, not like always a part of AEW? It makes me feel like they don't have as much faith in the actual Ring of Honor brand as I feel. Like, I feel like the brand is so... I think it is legendary. It's very respected. The early 2000s of Ring of Honor were crazy. The CM Punk, Danielson, the Young Bucks later on, Steen, El Generico. I can go on for a long time about it, but if they had just done that, kept the name and the people, maybe they could never have done it, but I just think that the whole situation started the whole belt discussion, and now we're here with the international title, and maybe I just booked 94 into 2024 with WCW and their international world title, but we'll see. Let's get into the actual card, though. Like I said, 10 matches. So this thing will run until early Memorial Day. Probably, I would say midnight. So 8 to 12, I guess. But I wouldn't be shocked if it runs to like 12:30. We'll see. I'm not going to go from top to bottom as I look at it on Wikipedia. I'm going to kind of bounce between, because there's some matches that I could just honestly live without. I'll be interested to see how it turns out, because there's always the next pay-per-view. But only some of these matches I feel are going to be really, really something. But there's always matches on AEW shows that shock you or kind of come out of nowhere. Or they're placed after like an Ospreay match, and yet they still have a lot of juice, to squeeze there. Because the last two pay-per-views, the Takeshita Ospreay match and the Ospreay Danielson match, were unbelievable, and I think it's almost impossible to follow those matches. It's a good problem to have, I guess, but it's tough, especially because they're promoting this as a triple main event, like Starrcade 94, and we're getting the TBS title match, of course, the Anarchy and the Arena match, and the AEW World title match. A lot to dive into, so let's get into it. Singles match, Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta. It's a story they've been playing pretty consistently now on the Collision, Dynamite, pretty much all the programming for AEW. I'm honestly not as interested in the match as I am the potential joining an angle there between Orange Cassidy and Don Callis. It's like the guy who's got the guy who's like the most emotive heel manager, in the sense of he's always working. You always see him. He does commentary, and yet he's still kind of he's unbiased, but he's totally biased, to the Don Callis, brand and whoever he's working with at the time. So combine that with a guy like Orange Cassidy, who, doesn't say really anything, even if he does speak for a couple of sentences or a promo. So it's almost like complete opposites. And for Don Callis to maybe pique Orange Cassidy's interest in a potential joint between both of them would be a wild, wild thing to see. And I'm, pretty intrigued to see that. Unfortunately, Chuck Taylor in all of this, another little part is that he potentially could not be wrestling anymore, which is pretty upsetting. He has been around for like 20 plus years, at least in my scope. I remember seeing him in Shikara with the time, like pausing time thing, and I don't know. There's so many great things with Chuck Taylor, but he's kind of a part of the storyline too. So I'm not as invested in the match as I am the story behind it. So there's a great story right there. Orange Cassidy and potentially Don Callis. We'll see where that goes. So I'm going to say that Orange Cassidy takes, some ideas from Don Callis and wins this match. Orange Cassidy for the win. just added a trios match for the unified AEW World Trios titles. The Bang Bang Gang, which is Jay White and the Guns, personally one of my favorite acts in AEW, especially during the early Collision days, which has only been a year. But seriously, the first month or two when Punk was actually there, I felt was great TV. Like, it was a great compliment to Dynamite. It was Saturday nights, but it felt like special. It felt early Saturday night's main event, combined with WCW Saturday Night, at least for me. So they were, one of the better pieces of that, going up against Death Triangle, which, Ray, Phoenix, Penta, and Pac. It's going to be a wild, wild match, I'm sure, with especially literally just Death Triangle in there, but Jay White, of course, unbelievable. And I think the Guns are kind of underrated, to be honest. Their entrance is one of the best in AEW. So, looking forward to that. But I think Death Triangle ends up taking these titles. I do. I think that they can move forward. Who knows who they have up their sleeve for some more trios action, but I'd like to see some different, teams kind of form here, especially with a 6. Of course, you have the Elite that could do it. You've got FTR could do it with someone. A lot of different options you could play with there. But I think that Death Triangle will win this match and win the trios titles. Chris Jericho, my favorite. No, seriously, he is a legend, and maybe it does have something to do with Tony Khan being in attendance for Jericho's final ECW match, which I felt to be one of the most intriguing pieces of trivia information, because that dedication kind of makes you understand how much Tony Khan values Chris Jericho. I think it's warranted to an extent, but I think Tony might have different feelings on that. If he was a fan for a long time, maybe since his last ECW match, so he was a fan of him at this time in his career where he wasn't even a national name yet, outside of the more hardcore wrestling community, because the internet was still kind of firing up back then. But Chris Jericho, the learning tree, of course, with Big Bill. But Big Bill not wrestling in this match, taking on Shibata and Hook. FTW rules match for the FTW title. Either Hook should win this thing, or I want to see Hook in NXT. I'm just not sure with any of this. And Shibata is good in his promos when he uses when he's talking with Hook and Jericho. I don't know. It's been very entertaining recently, but I just don't know. I don't know if Jericho needs this title anymore, and he just had this win. So I would say Hook should win this title back, end this thing with Jericho. Maybe Big Bill gets involved in some way. I don't know. I don't know if this is a good one of the good times where I would say that because I don't know what's going to happen, it's going to make the product better. Really not sure if that's going to be possible. So we'll see. I like Big Bill too. So I like all these guys on this, pretty much on this in this match, but pretty much the entire card. No one on there that makes me want to not watch. I'm pretty enthused about 8 or 9 of these matches probably, but give me Hook to win back the title, which might be the biggest, most title reigns for the FTW title. Has to be. Let's see. Yep, Hook is the only 2 times. Oh no, if Hook wins it again, he will dethrone his father, who won it twice. Although his last win was also a unification with the ECW World title. This whole show's about unification, and we're not even sure if that's going to happen on this show. But, okay. Let's get to another match here. Adam Copeland. Malachi Black. Can't believe I'm saying this. Barbed wire steel cage match for the AEW TNT title. This, wrestling historian, background for myself. Sometimes I like to think this match in particular has piqued my interest, knowing that there are 2 pretty famous barbed wire steel cage matches in the history of pro wrestling. The first, of course, being WCW Uncensored 1999, Flair, Hogan. And then the match that kind of helped me get back into wrestling, 2005. The pay-per-view was No Way Out in Pittsburgh. I was not at the show, but at the time I had heard like radio ads for the show. And I was like, what the hell is this? This is like, it had been since 2001 when WCW closed that I had really watched wrestling consistently. And when I heard about this barbed wire steel cage match, I'm like, that's pretty intense. Like, all right, okay. And the match was like, all right. Like looking back on it, it was a great ending. I will give them that. Underrated ending to a match with Big Show and JBL. But that match kind of got me back into wrestling. I watched WrestleMania 21 that year. The rest is history. So that's the other barbed wire steel cage match that I can recall. So this is going to be another interesting one. So this time in AEW, all three major companies have had one. But Malachi Black challenging Adam Copeland for that TNT title. We saw a bloodbath, quite literally, this past week on Dynamite, or as Tony Schiavone used to say during Nitro, the red liquid, because the standards and practices would not allow them to say blood or a bloodbath, as you could in the WWF with Gangrel and the Brood. And even though Christian maybe eventually would join, I think there's an outside chance we see Gangrel maybe make an appearance here for this barbed wire steel cage match, as the mind games from Copeland from last week seem to indicate. Maybe we even get an entrance from, the vintage Brood Adam Copeland or Edge character. But I wouldn't be shocked if we did see David Heath, Gangrel, if you will, who I just saw back in a couple months ago at RWA, a very interesting independent promotion that I go to here locally every now and again. I went to, I think, the first 2 shows, maybe 3 shows of this year, and it was just, I could do a whole series of episodes on RWA. I wrote an ethnography on RWA, which is the study of a culture, back in college. So I think I could do a lot with RWA there. But he was there. Gangrel was there in attendance. He wrestled a match, so he is in shape. He absolutely could be involved in this match. I'm interested to see what kind of barbed wire. Is it barbed wire? Will it be razor wire at the top of the cage? So the match is a steel cage, traditional steel cage, but at the top, you just have the strands of barbed wire wrapped up in a huge coil around the top of the cage, so you can't get out. So I don't think there's a door. It's not a traditional cage match, but to see these two guys in it, I think it's going to be a legit bloodbath this time, real blood, quote unquote. But brutal. Adam Copeland's been doing matches and moves, quite frankly, that he's admitted during this run of his career than he's ever really done. He's doing new things each night. He's trying out new things. He's getting to wrestle all this amazing talent, and he's been going crazy, hardcore recently on Dynamite and even on some of the other shows, with crazy matches with Brody King, among others, and really just putting it all out there on the line as a veteran, but also a lover of the game. And this match is going to be no different, I feel. How it ends, though, I'm unsure. I do feel like he could dethrone Adam Copeland here, but I don't know. I feel like because of the match, because of how crazy the match is, I think Adam Copeland's actually going to win this match and retain his TNT title. Still not sure what the future holds for it. I still don't get why we haven't had the ladder match between Adam Copeland and Christian. Isn't that the natural end of this whole thing? A ladder match between the two? That's an obvious thing. AEW loves to do the right there in front of you, obvious, great booking ideas, because they're obviously gonna work. It's not hard to Sting came into AEW. and he's got a painted face. Darby's got a painted face, and he's a younger wrestler who needs to figure out, get a mentor. What better way to put those two together? Like, that would make perfect sense. And then they did it, and it was great for 3 straight years. And then Sting's final match was amazing, primarily in part to his tag team partner. So the obvious takes you a long way sometimes with booking and wrestling. So to me, Copeland and Christian in a ladder match for the any title really should and hopefully will be something in the future we can look forward to. But until then, I think Adam Copeland takes this one home. All right, women's world title. Timeless Toni Storm, Serena Deeb. This has been another interesting feud, but I don't think we're going to see Toni Storm lose this championship anytime soon. Where is Britt Baker? Where is Jamie Hayter? I mean, Hikaru Shida? Anybody? Nyla Rose? Anybody? Who will dethrone Toni Storm? I just don't think it's Serena Deeb, unfortunately for her. But the Toni Storm gimmick, again, like one of the best parts of AEW. Absolutely great work from Toni. Mariah May and Luther. Maybe Mariah May I could see being the one to take the title from Toni if if she's ready to, if they deem her ready to. So we'll see about that. But I think this is going to be pretty standard. Solid match, of course. Serena Deeb been working for a long time. I remember, with the Straight Edge Society even way back when. 2009, 2010. But her and Toni will probably have a solid match, but I think Toni will retain her championship. Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita. World Heavyweight title IWGP Eliminator match. If Takeshita wins, he will get a future IWGP World Heavyweight title match. This match should be fantastic, and I'm going to say I would say maybe a bold prediction here. I think Takeshita is going to defeat Jon Moxley. I'm not sure if Takeshita will win the IWGP World title, but I would not be stunned if he did. I honestly would not be stunned if he did it. He is really flown through the ranks as a wrestler. He's not even 30 years old yet. Like I mentioned earlier, his match with Will Ospreay at Revolution was unbelievable. So pretty much everything he touches in the ring here is great stuff. So him and Moxley, if he gets the win, he gets the opportunity. Who knows when that will be? I would say it could easily be at Forbidden Door, and you get the rematch, and maybe you have someone cost Moxley that, and there you go, Takeshita's champion. He can go to Japan and defend it and really become a huge star, I would say, as world champion. And then Moxley can figure something out. Maybe he transitions to something else. Maybe Kenny Omega. Who knows? A lot of different things on the table here. But I'm going to say that Konosuke Takeshita wins this match against Jon Moxley and receives that future IWGP World Heavyweight Championship opportunity. Let's get into the final 4 matches on this card. I mean, they say triple main event, but I think that there's multiple. I think we could have 4 or 5 here. Like the previous match, I could easily say. I could say the Copeland Malachi Black match is a main event worthy. I don't think they could pull it off on a Collision. Pay-per-view is pretty big. But this match, Roderick Strong defends the international title against Will Ospreay. Like I mentioned, Ospreay with Takeshita, Ospreay with Danielson. 2 of the best matches of the year, like bar none, without a doubt. And he's unbelievable. His charisma is at like an all-time high. He's absolutely one of the most over guys in AEW, in the world of wrestling right now, I would say. His entrance song is pretty damn over with the crowd as well. Great chant as well that you can... It'll be nice to hear that in the MGM Grand. It's a smaller arena. That's where they held Halloween Havocs throughout the years. So I think it'll be really cool to see the Ospreay entrance here. And I made this slightly bold prediction, but I think Will Ospreay wins this title. I think he wins the international title and then eventually unifies it with the AEW world title as sort of a WCW big gold belt that was the international world title, and the WCW world title that Flair and Hogan respectively held. Maybe do that and kind of take away the international title from being something. Then you can tout it as the biggest unification title match in history. You could do a lot at Wembley, but I think if you want to do that, you can potentially go that route with Will Ospreay. So I think Ospreay wins this match. I think the match will be spectacular. The Messiah of the Backbreaker, Roderick Strong, is a menace in the ring, and I think it's going to be one hell of a bout between him and Ospreay. So looking forward to that, but I would consider it a main event for sure. Let's get into the actual announced quote-unquote main event. Mercedes Moné, first match in AEW. Nightingale, Moné. They, of course, the last match Moné had before her injury, which took place during that match. Willow got the victory, of course, but the loss was much harsher once the injury was revealed. And Moné has been training, getting back in shape, ring shape, getting the cardio in. Now she's finally back after over 2 months of purely promo work outside of getting powerbombed through the contract table by Willow this a couple weeks ago. I think it's time for this to be proven that she's one of the best wrestlers still in the world. I do think she has it, but I'm looking forward to finally seeing it happen. I think the story, it was built in. They couldn't have written a better story, I don't think. The injury, everything, and now there's respect. But now there's a little bit of disrespect week to week. And I think Willow Nightingale, I mentioned this, it's kind of like Sami Zayn in a way. I think she's really, really like that baby face that's just, I don't know, the underdog, the ultimate underdog kind of. And she's just really likable. And I think she's a great worker in ring as well. So I've been enjoying her being champion, but now, of course, it does seem like it's Moné's time. It's not boss time, though. I do think Moné gets the win here, gets the redemption, gets the title, and then you can run the match back next month. And like I said earlier, Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose. Anybody, somebody, please get some more women on these cards, and there's definitely other great women in the division, but only a few matches on this massive show. But I'm just looking forward to who Moné, assuming she wins, would have to face. If Willow gets the win, then I would say it's almost a dropped opportunity already. You bring Moné in to be a cornerstone of your company. So she should win the title. It's been built up. There's a story there. I don't think there's a lot in Moné chasing for the title because she just came into the company. She's hadn't had any matches to earn this opportunity. So it's like, well, if she loses, then she really can't get a match unless she earns it. And it just wouldn't make sense. Give me Mercedes Moné as your new TBS champion. And what I assume will be a great match. I think their chemistry is pretty solid. 2 more matches to go. I'm not sure what exactly closes the night, so I'm just going to go through. I'm honestly going to do the AEW World Title match first. Swerve Strickland defending against Christian Cage with, of course, the Patriarchy and Prince Nana in tow for Swerve Strickland. Like I mentioned earlier, Swerve, I think he's a better challenger than champion. However, I don't believe that's his fault. I think the booking leaves a lot to be desired, and they could potentially, help that with a different opponent. I've been actually more invested, though, as the match has been built up. the wiping of the blood on the photograph of Swerve's family and a lot of personal attacks. So I'm kind of in there, but I attribute that a lot to Christian Cage. So maybe if Swerve wins this, maybe Hangman comes back. Maybe that's where you set up a match. I don't know if you do that at Forbidden Door. Of course, you could wait to do it at All In. I'm not sure if there's a July show or not, but I don't know. I mean, there's so many pay-per-views for AEW now. Actually, I guess I can check, but no, it's Forbidden Door and then All In, because Forbidden Door is actually at the end of June, so it's practically July. But yeah, Swerve Strickland defends against Christian Cage. I don't see Swerve losing here. As a matter of fact, I think he will just win. I think he'll get a big victory. I think it'll be a solid match. A lot of shenanigans, I'm assuming, with Mother Wayne, Nick Wayne, Killswitch, of course. Maybe even Prince Nana gets involved. But I'd like to see Swerve win this match, retain the title, get another successful defense. Maybe you get Hangman. Maybe you get MJF. You know, I think that might be a little early. If MJF is ready, sure. But I'll be intrigued to see how they play this match out. And I mean, I don't know if Christian's going to win. I really don't think so. I don't think you would put it on Christian Cage. If you were going to take it off Swerve Strickland, like I said, Hangman would be the guy. You don't do it with a Christian Cage. I'm sorry. Christian doesn't need it. He's the biggest heel, arguably, in the company. He doesn't need a world title to stay relevant. He needs to not be world champion so he can challenge Adam Copeland to a ladder match at All In for the title. So, Swerve to win. What I think will probably be the main event, Anarchy in the Arena. This, I believe, is it the third iteration? Yeah. It's been the third time it's been held in a row here at Double or Nothing. The first one in 2022 was the Jericho Appreciation Society, Jericho, Daniel Garcia, Jake Hager, Angelo Parker, and Matt Menard, defeating Danielson, Moxley, Santana, Ortiz, and Eddie Kingston. The following year, though, the BCC did get a victory over the Elite. It was Danielson, Moxley, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta defeating Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Hangman Adam Page. Wow. Times have changed since 2023. But this year, we do get the Elite again, the Young Bucks, this time with the Scapegoat, Jack Perry, and Kazuchika Okada versus Darby Allin, FTR, and Bryan Danielson. Quote, Team AEW, even though 3 out of the 4 have previously been in WWE and longer than they have been in AEW. Although FTR has been there for a while, so they're probably approaching being in AEW longer. And I think they'll end up being in AEW longer than they were in WWE. But this match is just crazy. You know, Anarchy in the Arena is always a wild, wild event, and it's always exciting. But this has a little different flavor. You know, Jack Perry returning, the Young Bucks being EVPs, but really crazy heel EVPs. And Okada, of course, in tow doing the same, beating up Tony Khan, you know, which is insane. And then this past week, the show closes with Tony Khan pulling up to the arena with Darby Allin in the vehicle, and he brings out a flamethrower. I think someone's going to be lit on fire in this match. I think Jack Perry will get lit on fire in this match, and either that or we maybe we get a flaming table. Is Darby Allin going to go through a flaming table? I mean, I'm doing this show. I'm acting as if I'm not going to be incredibly entertained by it. But God, the guy just got saved from going up to Mount Everest after falling through a pane of glass off of a huge ladder. He only got saved from that event into Mount Everest because he got hit by a bus, and now he's back. I think he's going to go through a flaming table. Maybe that actually seems more realistic than Jack Perry being set on fire, but I had seen some rumors about like what could happen with this match, so who knows, but I know it's going to be chaotic. I'm sure the Young Bucks are going to really do some wild stuff. Maybe we get to see the super kick with the thumbtacks on the shoe, but it's the new Reebok pump shoe. I think that's something that could be seen as well. But man, this is going to be nuts. It is interesting. Team AEW, when it was FTR, Darby, and originally Eddie Kingston, I was okay okay with that, but I kind of wanted Danielson to be replaced by Hangman. Now I kind of don't. I think I want him to go into the Swerve thing, but I think that could still be played later on or for a little bit longer until we get to that point. But maybe Hangman gets involved here. We know Kenny Omega, won't be just yet, but as he actually just got surgery for his bout with diverticulitis, so speedy recovery to the cleaner, Kenny Omega. But I think this match is going to be a wild one. I don't know if we see Hangman here, but I'm curious to see what Tony Khan's involvement is, and you can't think... I just assume that Tony Khan's going to be involved in this. Whether it's the right call or not, it remains to be seen, but I have this feeling... it's the 5th anniversary, of the first Double or Nothing. It's in the same arena as that show. It's a huge deal. This event is a huge, deal. This match and the implications, now that Tony Khan's kind of like an on-screen character of sorts, makes it all a huge, massive, event. Is there a chance that Tony Khan, in this match, by the way, that anything goes, so he can do whatever he wants, is Tony Khan going to turn on AEW and join the Elite at the end of this show? Could you imagine the internet after that? I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I have this weird feeling, how this is, when you look at storylines and this would be the perfect time to pull the trigger on this certain guy being a babyface again, or turning heel, or losing the title, or turning on his friend. Tony Khan being the Eric Bischoff and NWO type guy, of all the times, this could be absolutely it. And I'm not sure it's the right call. I'm not sure if it's something that will work long term. Maybe it will help the ratings out. Maybe it'll tank the ratings. I can't lie and say that I would not be immediately entertained if Tony Khan joins the Elite. But if it happens, you heard it here first, folks. I don't know. I have a feeling they're going to win. I'm going to pick the Elite to win the Anarchy in the Arena match by way of heel turn with Tony Khan in an unbelievable, shocking moment at Double or Nothing, which, 5 years ago, Jon Moxley debuted. And this show, maybe we see the craziest betrayal in AEW history. I mean, you want to make waves, you got to do something bold, right? So there's my bold prediction. But this show, my not so bold prediction is everybody I would say has it. It's gonna be a pretty damn good show, I would wager. Top to bottom in the ring, AEW pay-per-views are honestly unlike any other wrestling show. WWE PLEs are great, but the spectacle kind of takes precedent, and you kind of get maybe 1 to 3 matches that are really solid. Sometimes you'll get a great card. Backlash is a great card. Certain shows are great top to bottom, but there's of course hits and misses. AEW pay-per-views maybe have a miss, but for the most part, they are on fire during the pay-per-view show. Their ratings could be high, they could be low. Collision, Rampage, Dynamite, whatever your critiques are. I've been there. I've critiqued them. I've been praiseworthy if they do something correct. And I'm telling you right now, their pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, it's going to be unbelievable. So I'm looking forward to it. I think all the matches are going to probably turn out to be better than I expect. Even the ones that I'm Jericho, get him off my screen. Maybe something crazy will happen in that match. Maybe Shibata will end up winning that match. Something interesting. I have faith in when it comes to AEW and their pay-per-views. So if I'm on here next week saying how terrible the whole show was, I'll be the first one to say I was surprised and I was also wrong. But I have no doubt in my mind that this show is going to be incredible. So top to bottom, looking forward to it. This whole weekend, we got King and Queen of the Ring, and you got Double or Nothing. 2 great shows within, 36 hours of each other. After that, we got halfway through June, we got Clash of the Castle in Scotland. I'm preparing for Drew McIntyre to be a big part of that. And then, of course, June 30th, Forbidden Door, which will be something special as well, as I've indicated, maybe with Takeshita being the IWGP champion by the end of that show. So we'll see. But man, looking forward to both shows this weekend, of course, with this show, Double or Nothing. Cannot wait to see it on pay-per-view. But this has been the Juice Box Double or Nothing pay-per-view predictions show. As always, on Twitter, at JuicySteen. On Instagram, at Juicy Wrestling Closet. You can find the Juice Box and listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com. And, of course, on Spotify. If you listen to it on Spotify or on iTunes, please rate and review the show. Give it 5 stars if you would, or, as I like to do, 5 straws. But, yeah. Additionally, YouTube, you can listen to the show there. And as I stated earlier, we will be having video content at some point. Who knows? But I'll let you know when it is up there. So, a lot of interns working hard here at the Juice Box to provide a solid RSS feed of audio just for now, but maybe some video in the future. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this show and the King and Queen of the Ring prediction show yesterday. And here's to a great pay-per-view on Sunday night. So for yours truly, I'm Juice Springsteen. See you guys next week with another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.